It's growing your own food. That's a really good choice because you are going to plant what you really want, how much you need, and when you are going to need it. It's the first thing to do to me. And again, becoming a member of a CSA is a really good choice because you go to the farmer and you can tell him or her, I really like potatoes or something. They are going to grow what you really want. Also, a buyer's club, what we are trying to organize. And in my opinion, that's an option to have a choice in what you eat.
It's getting outside and seeing what grows, what's hiding in plain sight, even in the urban landscape, or particularly in the urban landscape, as the city of Portland looks to at how to live and how to plan and be sustainable for the next 30, 50 years. We can't ignore the urban forest or the urban gardens. And while increasing those, and at PSU we've been gradually transferring out non-natives in the landscaping around different buildings and putting in some, and the students have been a real force in this decision, in this choice. They wanted what we're calling grazing gardens. So between classes and strolling down the park block, South Park blocks, there's some edibles to munch on. But that brings up, we don't know what these plants are. How do we identify them? How do we know what they look like in winter? What's an edible berry? What isn't? And so that it invites everyone to, if you're going to make a healthy choice, you're going to have to spend some time getting to know what a potato is, what's the difference between a GMO russet or Peruvian blue potatoes, or how can I tell? I think facilities kind of made a mistake and planted a lot of ground cover that looks like a wild strawberry, but it's not. So when they were tasting it, it's like, oh, this is pretty awful. So we have to get out, and getting outside and educating ourselves. Books can take us only so far, but again, that education piece of knowing where food comes from so that you can even make a healthy choice, and reconnecting to the place where you live so that you get excited again about what your choices are and what's out there. Yeah.
So I think in this discussion of choice, policy is really very important. And I think I would also turn it around. While some members of our society don't have access to healthy choices, many of us have too many choices, and maybe we need to limit the choices that we have, which of course that's a very un-American argument, because freedom of choice and we should choose whatever food we want to eat. But there's increasing numbers of sociological studies showing, the most recent one that's getting a lot of press coverage is, well, food deserts, it's not really, it doesn't matter if people have access to fresh, healthy food. The study shows that they'll still eat unhealthy food. And of course, certainly there's economic issues in there, but there's other studies about willpower, and they always use food. These are psychological studies that look at people's ability to work hard and overcome challenges. They always use food. So the study, if you bring in two groups of people and you bring them together, and one group is assigned to getting brownies, so they get some brownies as their snack, and the other group gets radishes as their snack. This is true. This is the study. And then they're told that the researcher is going to leave the room, and the brownie group is to eat 3 brownies, and the radish group is to eat 3 radishes. And then the snack time is over, and they have a camera, and they observe that the people do follow the rules, although the people eating the radishes are drooling at the brownies. They stare at the brownies, but they know they're in the study. They shouldn't, by that, they're adults, they're going to participate. So they eat their radishes. Then they come back and they give them a really challenging mental task. The people who had the brownies completed in 8 minutes. The people who had the radishes completed in 24 minutes, because it takes a lot of willpower to keep plugging away at this math problem, something that's not very interesting. You've got to use willpower. These are all studies about willpower. People who've had to resist the brownies, they've already used up their willpower. They had to make their choice, right? The study isn't about brownies and radishes. It's about the math problem and willpower and motivating people to do work. But the interesting thing to me as somebody who works on food issues is, it's the thing about the food deserts. If you've got brownies or radishes, what are you going to choose? So maybe when it comes to choice, all of this choice, you walk into the supermarket and you can have your snack wells and chocolate fudge apple cinnamon flavor, or you can have the, mint strawberry swirl. I don't know what the flavors are, but, all of these choices that we have, maybe we need some policies that say, let's focus on making sure people have healthy choices. And we're starting to do that with the snack foods in schools, in the K through 12 schools, and saying, well, maybe children don't need to have that choice to have soda with their lunch. Maybe we can regulate the amount of calories or trans fats that are in the choices that people get to make. So
we were looking at what's in the cafeteria. That's another whole panel, actually. But it was, if you've been to a school lately, I remember native storyteller Ed Edmo and I being at Chief Joseph Elementary School, and we were part of there for Chief Joseph celebration days, and I was doing tea and native plant activities, and Ed had been storytelling, and so we were at the break at lunch, and we went into the cafeteria to get a cup of water, and we could not get it. Everything was in plastic. The staff was looking for just a cup to turn. All of the stainless steel kitchens that from my generation, I remember the cafeteria ladies and everybody working in, and kids would work in. I was the milk girl, selling milk for a nickel, and you got your lunch free, but all of that is kind of shut down, largely due to budget, but also this kind of industrialized food model that says the kids come in and they can choose a saran-wrapped burrito or big pizza slice. It's microwaved. Everything is sort of antiseptically sealed. And so Ed and I were just kind of drifting around, could we just even find an old mug? And the answer was no, we couldn't. And so, but the good thing is as they've changed what's in the vending machines, and the biggest change is getting students outside, and when they grow their own food, the parents will go, oh, I don't think they're going to eat that. The kids, when they grow it themselves, they will choose that. I don't know if they choose it over brownies, but I've seen kids that would normally not eat radishes and pea pods off of vines that they're growing. It's like, ooh, this is a treat, and if you don't enjoy it as much as they do, they're offended. So they immediately feel that connection to place because they've grown it. And I think the more planting, the more gardening, whether it's growing gardens here in Portland that helps families and schools set up gardens, whether it's doing more garden-based education, garden curriculum, teaching every discipline at school through the lens of the garden, biology, language, all of it, even math, science. They're the ones who have been coming out to the Learning Gardens Lab in Southeast Portland at Southeast 60th and Duke across from Lane Middle School. Those students come over, and unfortunately we can only serve the 6th graders right now just because that's what the time and budget allows.